find it difficult to be where you are right now?
Look, I think that's a brilliant question, and I think Saina alluded to that in the last panel. So when I grew up looking at my father and mother, that sort of set the gender roles in my head. It's not what they say, it's what they do. It's what I watch them doing. And my dad's the bread earner, my mom's at home, and she was topper of her class, but gave up her career to stay at home and raise us. She had us when, me and my sister, she had us when she was fairly young. I think that's, for many of us in the room, that might be the case, right? Where dad earned a living, mom was at home, had you young, and now you have opportunities that they did not have. So what happens in the brain, therefore, is no matter how well traveled we are and that kind of sets the gender roles in our head. So one of the sort of consequences of that is if I do more for my wife's career than my dad did, I feel a sense of entitlement, right? Because in my head, that's still the benchmark, right? My dad. If she does lesser at home than her mom did, she feels guilty. There's many times when I go, hey, what's the issue here? But she's feeling really guilty about something, and we have to.
That's a very real,
right?
that's
so,
a very real struggle that most of us face.
So now to flip it around in our head, so when we talk about that becomes a sort of, you can't, if you keep your parents as a benchmark, then it becomes a hard thing to debate. It's all subjective, where do you land? So we changed the discussion to, look, our son is going to grow up looking at us, and we will set the gender roles in his head as he's growing up. So what do we want our son to grow up knowing and understanding? And it was actually very important to me that my son grows up knowing that his mother's career is important. That's a big part of her life. He grows up knowing that, yes, men, both are supposed to make sacrifices for each other's career. We do make sacrifices for each other's lives, but within the career context as well, it's important for my son to understand that men need to follow women as well, and so on. And I think as soon as we shifted our conversation to what we want our son to grow up acknowledging as gender roles, it did change the way we started acting in our lives.
That's a great point. Anybody wants to ask him? Yes, the gentleman in there.
Hi. See, it's a great story. I have been blessed with two daughters, and I've seen daughters at home throughout my life. They're both working. But I also understand that, the story that you've shared about yourself is a very, you've been very lucky, you're blessed. Right? How many families can find where they can live on a single income? Question one, right? So your wife had an important job and you chose to move to Delhi because she had an important job, and you could take a back seat for a short term, right? This does not happen with many families, and I've interacted with a lot of people, I've mentored people, I've supported people in this journey, and I think it's at the end of the day, it's an economical debate. Right? I think we refer to it in terms of the cost of bringing up, the cost of supporting single families. So you take a scenario where the husband and wife are working, and if it's a question of going out and hiring services to take care of children, if you're not lucky to have mom and dad come and stay with you, etc., and if you're going to be hiring those services, a lot of time those services will turn out a lot more expensive than actually the amount of salary that an individual is earning. It's not just a question of who is going to take the back seat. it's not just the question of should the woman work. And I genuinely believe, and I respect everyone in this room, and I'm here because I genuinely believe that women should come forward and do something. But this whole question, this whole dilemma of who should take the back seat, who should take the situation, I think that's a debate that is sort of not very clear to me, and I'm never comfortable with that. Because given the situation, yes, someone should take a back seat. I completely agree. But a lot of times this is driven by the circumstances and the situations.
Do you want to counter that?
Sure, I will, and then I'll pass it along to you. I would love to hear your thoughts as well. So if I understand the question correctly, look, I am privileged and it's rare. I do enjoy a certain financial freedom in order to make these decisions. Although I don't think that's what this is about. I don't think there should be a scorecard either where, hey, how many times did we move for each other? It's, one tally mark here, one tally mark there, and who leads and not. I think there are several situations in my friends' lives, even a bunch of people who don't enjoy the same financial freedom, where when it comes, when the question of maximizing the man's career opportunity comes up, there is a sort of default program saying, of course you're going to support me with that. Whereas when maximizing the woman's career opportunity comes up, without comparing both of their opportunities, in fact, I know a lot of friends where the woman is far more accomplished than the man. There is a sort of hesitation. There is a guilt that the woman goes through, and there is a sense of entitlement that the man goes through. I'm stereotyping here, of course. It's the 50% of the world is either or, so there'll be a lot of unique circumstances. But I think the financial maximization of the family or financial freedom of the family is not the only issue. I think there is a gender role that plays in our minds, and we've got to get past that and be more equal. But I will pass it along to you.
The only thing I would reflect is that, first of all, we need more men like Kashyap, and that his son will just be a rocking kid and very popular. But second, and more to the point, I think you've raised something about, potential flexibility. Your question wasn't really clear to me, but the fact is that the workforce is changing so drastically with innovations, artificial intelligence, future workforces, being replaced by robots and such like. No one can be too confident of the concept of a lifelong job anymore. So the idea of Mr. Corporate goes, out there, pension, all of that whole working model has changed. So even outside of the gender debate, which I thought was very well expressed by you, even outside of that, people have to be more nimble, more flexible, and just more open-minded about how they approach work and the future of work.
So, can I just
Yes.
more line?
Yes.
So I completely agree. It's not just about the opportunity. I think there has to be a change in the cultural scenario, which is going to take time. But I think when we get into this debate, is where my question was. We have these kind of discussions and we end up around roles. And I think what she's saying is that the whole work culture is changing. I think everyone needs to be able to stand up and start taking care of themselves. I think that's what you're trying to say. And I
Basically,
think
gender roles are changing. Traditional roles are changing. So it's no longer a man's job to do some certain things, no longer a woman's job to do certain things. And companies, I think, are brilliantly embracing that. I will come to you, Apurva, with this. With all, male, still traditionally male-dominated industries, even at micro level, how eager are companies to hire or tap into, the women workforce, and how are they readjusting their mindset to make workspaces more open to women, to help them make the transition from home to work? So I'll come to the second part.
Yeah. So I think biggest example or the answer to your question is Sheroes. So Sheroes is actually helping women who want certain flexibility. And Urban Clap is partnering with Sheroes to actually help these women who would want to work from home or who want certain flexibility. So broadly, I mean, as Kashyap and we mentioned, it's already there. Women, like companies are, it's the world has already changed in my mind. I mean, we don't need to wait for the future for people to realize yes, women should work, or we don't want women. It's not like that. I mean, people would want women to work. It's just that certain women need flexibility, and for that, companies like Sheroes are helping. And secondly, let's move to your second question and then.
So I want to know what are the barriers, regulatory barriers that micro entrepreneurs face on a daily basis, and how are you addressing that?
I mean, for Urban Clap, I would say, since Urban Clap is a services marketplace, we are currently helping more than 50,000 professionals in India and potentially want to grow to more than 5 lakh. And good percentage of them are women, right? And what micro entrepreneurs have issues out there in the market is, I mean, they don't have a way to sell themselves or their services in a better and much cleaner and fairer way. And yes, Urban Clap is helping in that respect because we believe that future is services. Industries like manufacturing and all, we don't really believe that there is a lot of employment in industries like manufacturing because of automation and stuff. Services, on the other hand, are expected to grow, and Urban Clap is helping in that perspective. Yeah.
I was reading up on your, before this session started, we were chatting over tea, and Prabhata said she's lived in almost the major Indian cities, including Andaman, and she's had even seen the first volcanic eruption, the only volcanic eruption there. So I told her that we share that fate because every time I used to be on a newsroom on a late night shift at Reuters, disasters used to happen. Well, name it, it used to happen. Earthquakes. Michael Jackson died on my shift, so I totally identify with her on that. But she is also she has a startup of her own, and she's also an entrepreneur. I want to know how you redefine this. Every college-going kid, the idea of a job, what a job should be, is very traditional and very straightforward, but you kind of changed all of that. You want to share your story?
Sure. So my co-founder Varun and I, we were 21 when we started up. We started up in our final year of college, and I kind of just want to share a little bit about the story before that. I come from a family where my mom and my dad were working all throughout. I remember in class 11 when I was studying for JEE, and most kids in India think that when you're studying for JEE, that's like the most you can ever study, right? I'd be studying like 16 hours a day. I would sleep at 2. I would actually, and I would go, when I'm going to sleep, I would see my mom still working. She would get back home around 7 because, I was at home, someone needed to be with me. But she would, spend some time with me, and then she would plug back into work. And she would sleep at like 4 a.m. every morning. She was part of a startup back then, which then grew on. So I kind of saw that story. And came from a family where I saw my mom and my dad taking on equal ownership, responsibility for me. So, my dad would wake up at like 4:30 in the morning and take me to coaching when my mom said, So that's something that I identify with. And my mom is my biggest inspiration. So when I was a kid in first standard, when your teacher asked you what you want to be when you grow up, I went home to my mom and said, Mom, what should I be when I grow up? And a lot of people, say engineer, banao, doctor.